Well, good afternoon, everyone. Obviously, we're here today to talk about and provide additional information regarding a very tragic incident that happened here this morning on behalf of the City Council, and I'm joined by Mayor Pro Tem Burke, Councilmember McIntosh, Councilmember Larson, and Councilmember Scipio, as well as Councilmember Clark. On behalf of them, as well as the City of Winston-Salem, we certainly are very saddened by this event that happened today. We offer our sincere condolences to the family of the two city employees who are deceased, and we hope for a very complete recovery to the other city employee who was injured, as well as Sergeant Sloan, who very bravely took on this situation, and we wish him the very best in his recovery. What we're going to do is ask Chief Thompson to come forward now and provide details, and then the council and I will be available for other questions and comments afterwards. Chief Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, Winston-Salem. I am Katrina Thompson, Chief of Police for the Winston-Salem Police Department. As you have heard me state, our greatest challenge for law enforcement in the Piedmont Triad across this state and across our nation is gun violence. We are all experiencing unacceptable levels of gun violence. This morning, it again became prevalent in our city. I would first like to state that our heartfelt condolences go out to the family and friends of our city family today, as well as the family and friends of all of our victims of gun violence. At 6:37 a.m., police officers were dispatched to the 2000 Lowry Street, the Jocelyn Johnson Municipal Services Center, a City of Winston-Salem government facility that houses city departments including sanitation, engineering field offices, employee medical staff, and employee development, which is a training department for city employees. Our initial dispatch was to a shooting call after our 911 communication center received multiple calls from city employees. Our first officer arrived on the scene at 6:41 a.m., a 4-minute response time. Upon arrival, officers heard shots still being fired on the west side of the Johnson Center complex. Our officers entered the complex as well as responded to the exterior locations at the complex and moved directly towards the threat. Officers confronted the shooter, identified as Stephen Dwayne Hazlip, 61 years old, a City of Winston-Salem employee for 12 years. He was encountered outside of the building where short gunfight ensued. During the gunfight with police, Mr. Hazlip was killed, stopping him from hurting any other city employee. One police officer was injured. He's identified as Sergeant Cameron Stewart Sloan, a Winston-Salem police officer for 22 years. He was struck twice by gunfire, and after a tourniquet was applied by another officer, he was transported to Wake Forest University Baptist Medical Center, where he was immediately taken to surgery. He is out of surgery and recovering in the hospital. I have met with him and his family, and we are taking care of him and their needs. Upon clearing the Johnson Center complex, Winston-Salem police officers located a deceased male identified as Terry Lee Cobb Jr., 48 years old, another City of Winston-Salem employee of 20 years, which appeared to be the primary target of the shooter, Mr. Hazlip, based on our preliminary investigation. Officers also located another victim inside the complex who was transported to Wake Forest University Baptist Medical Center with a serious but non-life-threatening gunshot wound. He will not be identified at this time. The next of kin for the deceased and the injured have been notified. Because this is an officer-involved shooting, the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation was requested and has arrived on the scene, which is normal protocol for our officer-involved shootings. Additionally, the Winston-Salem Police Department's Criminal Investigations Division detectives are investigating the overall incident, and our Professional Standards Division is also involved. Based on what we know at this time, it appears that Mr. Cobb was the specific target of Mr. Hazlett. Although there were other city employees in harm's way, no one else appeared to have been specifically or randomly targeted. As such, we are categorizing this event as a workplace violence incident. However, as I have publicly spoken, I hope that our citizens have prepared for this and other acts of violence, such as active shooter threats. For years, the City of Winston-Salem has prepared its employees for incidents of this nature because they have become so prevalent across our country. Please YouTube the City of Houston, Texas preparedness video called Run, Hide, Fight for additional preparedness information. The workplace violent threat may show up in any workplace. Knowing that recovery efforts include taking care of all city employees, the City of Winston-Salem has contacted counselors with our employee assistance providers that is beginning counseling and will be bringing counseling to our facilities to help our employees deal with the aftermath of this workplace violence. As a reminder, we are in our very early stages of the investigation, and I have provided you with all of the available information at this time. We will update you with further developments as they become available. Therefore, I'll be limited in the questions that I can take.
Can you first spell the names of the suspect and victim?
The spelling of the victim, we have one victim by the name of Terry Lee Cobb. That's Terry. Middle name Lee. Last name Cobb Jr. We also have victim that we have not identified, and then our the actual shooter's last name or first name is Stephen, Steven, Dwayne, Dewayne. Last name is spelled Haizlip. And officer is Cameron Stewart Sloan, and Cameron Stewart Sloan.
Can you talk about the relationship of the suspect and the victim?
For that question, I'm going to ask that Captain Tolley step forward.
Good evening, folks. My name is Stephen Tolley, and I'm a captain with the Criminal Investigations Division. Ma'am, I think your question was, do we have any knowledge of the offender and the victim in this matter? We both know that both the offender and the victim are long-term employees of the city. This information is preliminary, but I'm confident in putting it out thus far. The information we're receiving is these two gentlemen had a long-standing dislike for each other. The source of that dislike, I don't have at this time, but I'm aware of an incident that occurred yesterday between the victim and the offender. They were involved in an altercation yesterday that, as far as we can tell, went unreported to the employer. But I believe that altercation yesterday, at least at this stage of the investigation, appears to be the catalyst for today's incident. But they're long-term co-workers. I can't go into a great amount of detail because I want to stress that we are in the preliminary stages. But the information is that the shooter arrived here with multiple firearms, and because he's an employee of the building, had access to the building. As Chief Thompson said, though, all the evidence we have is this shooter was targeting Mr. Cobb specifically, and I believe the other injury in this, unfortunately, was collateral damage. I don't believe he was the intended target. I'm basing that on evidence that we've been able to gather from witnesses, evidence at the scene, and even some statements by the offender before his death.
Would you consider this enough?
Informant with the Associated Press. Could you say what sort of weapons or what weapon was used in the crime and maybe what other weapons were found?
We've located 2 handguns. The specifics of the handguns I don't have with me, but it's 2 handguns.
Do you know if they were registered for a people?
Certainly, that's something that we'll look into, but I don't have that information now. We would rely on our ATF to assist us with that, and that's a question that we will answer as part of the investigation.
And that other altercation, that happened on site, and what time of day did that happen?
The altercation yesterday was not on site. I don't have the time of day that it happened, but I don't believe it was actually here at the facility yet, is what we're being told. Yes. It's while they were on duty, yes.
And can you tell us inside where this shooting happened? You've heard some rumors, but can you specify where?
I can't, I'm not familiar enough with the inside of this facility to lay. I can tell you that it happened inside the facility, but I wouldn't go into the specifics exactly where at this time. More information will come out as we're furthering the investigation.
What's the condition of the other person who was shot? You said the person who was shot because of collateral damage. And are they in fact a worker?
The other person is an employee of the city, yes, sir. Serious injuries, as any gunshot wound is, but those injuries, it's being described to us as being in stable condition, which is wonderful news.
Would you consider this a mass shooting?
No, I would not consider this a mass shooting. I think workplace violence is absolutely the right categorization of this. This is a dispute that spilled over into violence and a targeted victim. It's just that he was targeted at work.
Captain Tyler, can you say if the altercation was physical? Were they arguing or did it turn physical?
We don't have firsthand description of it because the 2 parties that were involved in the altercation are deceased. Third-hand knowledge is that it did become physical.
Captain Kelly, how many officers shot Mr. Hasler?
That's not determined at this time yet. It's so early in the investigation. I am comfortable in telling you the evidence is the suspect fired multiple rounds at the officers, and multiple rounds were returned by the officers toward the suspect.
Can you say which department these 2 employees work for and what was their professional relationship? Did one supervise the other? Or
They're simply co-workers. A specific department other than to say sanitation, I don't have the specific department, but I would describe as co-workers.
Captain, was the shooter vague for the officers?
That'll come out. That's something we're reviewing, and I am. We have a tremendous amount of video to review on this, both surveillance video and Axon camera footage, body camera footage. So that's a question I am going to be able to answer for you, but I can't answer it at this time. Just outside the building, yes, ma'am. The shooting between the officers and the suspect, just outside the building, yes.
where was the officer shot?
I wouldn't go into that at this time other than to say he was shot twice.
Tell us, this other person who was shot, this victim who's now recovering, were they just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time?
Wrong place at the wrong time is what the evidence so far is indicating, yes. Yes.
And to clarify, the shooting between Mr. Hazel and Mr. Cobb happened
Inside the
the
building.
encounter between Mr. Hazel and Mr. Walker
Just outside the building, that's correct.
And have you guys ever had any sort of problems with the suspected shooter at any point in time in the past, or even call for guns on property here?
Not that I'm aware of, no. And again, those are good questions. Those are questions I will go back and have the answer for. It's just so early in the investigation, I don't have them. I would have to refer that to our city attorney's office to share that with you. Folks, I don't want to be rude. I've been struggling to keep my voice this week. That's the only questions I can answer for now. I appreciate your time. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. I'll turn it back over to Mayor Joines.
Thank you, Chief Thompson. Certainly, we're all saddened by this, and just reiterate again the condolences that we offer to the families, as well as the hope for a complete recovery of the officer or sergeant and the other victim. We'll say that the City of Winston-Salem remains committed to having a safe workplace environment, and we do prohibit guns. And so we're continuing to look at ways to make our workplace even safer. Again, any council members want to add any comments? All right. Thank you all very much for coming.
Mayor,
Yes.
is there any security system in place to make sure people don't bring guns into the city buildings, or?
Currently, they're not metal detectors at our facilities. Again, we're looking at all aspects of potentially enhancing the safety of our workplace.
Since this
And-
happened at a city building on city property, is there, not only looking at that, but is there going to be a greater discussion in terms of finding a way to, I guess, take that anger or any sort of problems that you have with another employee and go talk to somebody? Is there something like that in-house?
We've already begun a program such as that already in our system. We have 2,400 employees, so we're certainly got that program underway.
Is there any possibility you guys will share any photos of the victims or the suspect since it is a city?
Yeah, as appropriate, we will. Good. Thank you all very much.